Hello dear viewers, you're watching Nino's product reviews, and today we're taking a look at the Edimax IC 9110W security camera. This security camera is quite small and that makes it pretty attractive to me, so I'm very curious to see what is inside this packaging. And as I go, I'm going to also discuss the things that I know that this camera is supposed to offer. I know that this camera actually has an internal unit, so that means that you have the camera outside, a very thin cable goes in and connects to an actual internal unit, which then does all the dirty work for you. We're gonna see it in a moment, but first we can see here we have a CD, a power cable, obviously. We have an Ethernet cable, which by the way looks pretty nice when compared to other companies' Ethernet cables. Definitely much nicer than other ones. And we have the actual camera here. It's, as I said, very small. Build quality is very good. I've actually taken a closer look at it after this video, and it seems to be built very nicely and sturdily, so that's definitely a good thing. And here we have the internal unit. The beauty of this unit is that your micro SD card goes in there, your Wi-Fi antenna goes in there, pretty much everything. You just have a very thin cable coming out of your camera going straight into this unit, and from here you can control it. The beauty of this is that you don't need to drill too much of a hole. You just drill a very small hole into your wall, you pull the cable from there and connect everything inside on the internal unit, and that makes it so much easier and also makes everything more convenient because you can extract the micro SD card, for example, if you need to, or if you need to do any major modifications. That's where you're gonna go for. Here we have a sticker. Another thing that's very nice about this camera is that on the CD I found also very detailed instruction manuals in various languages. I'm going to show you how you're supposed to connect this camera because it is interesting. It's very different from the other cameras that I've used in the past, since they didn't have a unit like this. Essentially you have this very thin aux cable which goes into your video input plug here, and once you have connected that, you're going to connect your Wi-Fi antenna if you want. And again, the beauty of having an internal unit with the Wi-Fi antenna inside means that you're not going to suffer from having a wall between your camera and the router, for example, which is really a beautiful thing. Then we plug in here the power adapter, and depending on whether you want to use LAN, you're going to plug in your Ethernet cable there. Obviously, if you're going to use LAN, you do not require the Wi-Fi cable to use it. Moving on to the actual device, we're going to take a closer look at the whole situation here. And as I started the software on my web browser, I was disappointed to find out that the picture looks very bad. There's not even a way to make it larger. So I went into the settings here and I just started taking a look at everything, seeing if maybe I had missed something. And as I was going step by step, I noticed that we have pretty much all the standard functions here, but sadly there's no way to change the resolution that you see outside in the main page. There's this weird function called Bonjour, and I've actually asked Edimax. They told me that this is a plug and play function for Mac computers, so it's not something relevant to me, but essentially makes it easier for the camera to work browser wise. Now here you can see you have different profiles, but these profiles are not accessible through the browser interface. If you want to use a browser interface, Edimax informed me that the only way to see the full quality of the recording would be if you use Internet Explorer under Windows 10. That of course is a very bad thing because they support the one browser that almost nobody ever uses or wants to use. I find it extremely insecure. I don't like it, so I'm not using it. I was willing to try pretty much all the other browsers, but that's where I draw the line. So okay, browser interface for me is pretty much lost. Motion detection is pretty standard. You have your three areas that you can make however big you want, and you have your sensitivity. I'm not quite sure what the threshold is. I've been playing with it. I couldn't quite figure out what it does, so you know, play with it and figure it out for yourselves if you want. I wasn't sure what it does, but ultimately the whole motion detection situation is pretty standard fare. It works very well. Also the push notifications on the phone work very well, but I'll get to the phone in a moment because phone controls are what actually Edimax wants you to use to control this camera. Now back onto what we see here, we have scheduled recording. Obviously this is useful if you have a store or something you wanted to just record during the night. You would schedule it. You can set up where to store different things, whether it's on the SD card, from which profile to store on the SD card, etc, etc. NAS settings are obviously here as well, and of course the SD card settings, which will allow us even to format it, unmount, etc. This is all pretty standard fare, but like I have said, sadly the fact that you cannot actually change how you view the camera through the PC interface is something that I'm not happy with at all. It's something that's been bugging me. However, Edimax did include a software of their own, the Edimax software for the desktop. So if you want to go on your PC and you are not happy with this interface, you got this software right here. And unfortunately it suffers from the same problem, and that's something that I don't get at all. Why is this an issue? You cannot increase the quality here. You can only change the picture standard, which increases it slightly, but you're still not at 720p, and that is just nonsense. I have no idea why they didn't work on this. Essentially, the way it looks to me is that they were planning for the users to use this camera only as a phone camera, so a camera that you'll be controlling through the phone interface. The phone interface works really well, I agree, but you have to have an option for the people to use it on the PC. This is a 120 something euro camera, okay? This is not a very cheap product at all, and products that cost half as much can do this, so I'm baffled about this. Going on to the mobile interface, it works very well. Yes, it saves stuff. I even have a notification that was saved on my phone that I can look at. It works very nice. Sadly, for example, while it does have the word cloud mentioned several times, I did not see any way to access the camera from outside my own network without any additional settings, and I'm emphasizing on any additional settings. If you set it up properly, you will be able to do that, but it is something that you need to do before. It's not done automatically like, for example, some other companies do. If you check out my videos, for example, the false cam cameras over the cloud do that very well. Now moving on, we're gonna see all these settings here, and you can see that again the mobile application works really well. It even enables you to check for the latest firmware and automatically install it. I've actually done that. It worked flawlessly, it worked very well, but I'm still baffled by the fact that I cannot access the full resolution on my PC unless I want to use Internet Explorer. That is nonsense. Now here's the night vision. I took a picture with my normal camera. Here you see basically how dark it was, and the camera is right in the middle of the picture, so I am taking a picture of what the camera is supposed to see, and I'm gonna go step by step through all of the different applications that you use to control the camera to show you how the night vision works. Obviously, the horrible resolution combined with everything else on the browser where you can't even full screen is just absolutely atrocious and useless. Browser, just forget about it unless you want to use Internet Explorer. Their software sadly doesn't seem to be better as well, because again we cannot access the full resolution, but I gotta say this picture appears to be much darker than what I would like it to be to begin with. And if I move on to the phone interface, you're going to notice that essentially we're going to have the same result, and that is very sad because the night vision of this camera is very, very weak, much weaker than I had anticipated, meaning that during the night this is what you're going to see. If you have some very small room to guard, like maybe a garage or something, it will work for that, but if you have any kind of open environment like this is not the right camera for you. So to reiterate before I end this review, essentially if you need a camera that has an internal unit and you can pay up to 125 euro for it, this is the right camera for you. However, be aware that the software on the phone is the only usable software that you have at your disposal. If you're interested, take a look at the links in the description, and thanks for watching my review.